Hey guys, I'm out here at Lake Georgetown, gonna do the Goodwater Loop, and I've had a heck of a morning trying to get here. This is the third park that I've come to trying to get on trail. The first two parks were closed, and I tried calling twice yesterday, couldn't get anybody on the phone, but anyway, here I am finally about to start the Goodwater Loop, and having to change my route up a bit because I'm starting on the opposite side of the lake, but we'll talk more about that later. I'm gonna get to it, the Goodwater Loop here on Lake Georgetown. So I am now leaving the Cedar Breaks Park. This is where I parked at, and the trail, if you're hiking counterclockwise, which I'm gonna have to do now, immediately leaves out of the park, just through the park entrance, and then I'm heading up the road here and about to go across the dam. So there's all these parking spots right here too, and this is on the small road leading to the dam, and I'm assuming you can park here for free because this is outside of the park entrance. The park host didn't mention that to me, so I paid $5 a day to park inside of Cedar Break Park, which I suppose is fine, a little more security for my car, but that would have been nice to know. So my original plan was to park at Russell Park on the north side of the lake and hike clockwise and stay at Cedar Hollow, I believe it is, primitive campsite tonight. But that park is closed, and I drove over to Hogg Park, which is only a few miles away, also on the north side of the lake, and it is also closed because of the ice storm. So this area got a bunch of ice a few weeks back, and I guess there's a bunch of broken trees that I can see, and I expect to see that all along the trail. I know at Cedar Break, I kind of drove around in there, and there are trees and limbs just snapped off all over the place. So they're still cleaning up from that. By the time this video comes out, Russell and Hogg should be back open. He said they'll be open on Thursday. I'm starting this trip on a Tuesday. And anyway, so should be back to normal, but coming from the DFW area, those parks on the north side were closest to me. My first mile marker of the trip, and I will be hiking this trail backwards according to the mile markers, which I like better because that's a countdown to the finish. So that little parking area down there is Booty's Road Trailhead parking area, and it also has access to the Goodwater Loop. And I can see this is kind of a makeshift trail people have made that comes all the way up here to the road, but the official segment of trail leaves out of there, and I believe connects in on the other side of the dam. So every video you see on YouTube of anybody hiking this trail, they all talk about walking across the dam, how it's the hottest section on trail, and I just happened to catch it on a super overcast morning. It was pretty foggy almost all the way down here. It's about a little over 2 hours, 2 to 2.5 hours from my house to get to the park, and it was real foggy. It's been really overcast so far. The sun finally did just break through the clouds through all my sunglasses, but it's really not too bad so far. I forgot to mention I'm hiking this trail toward the beginning of March 2023, and expecting highs around 80 every day, and the lows, get this, the low each night is only like 64 degrees. So really warm temperatures. It's a mile marker 25 just on the other side of the dam. So immediately after the dam, I started walking through Overlook Park, and there are bathrooms here you'll walk right next to. The lake's right down there. Not sure if this park is closed right now. They do have the bathrooms open, so you can fill up your water there. So this is a parking area here at Overlook Park, just up from the lake and the bathroom where we were just at. Saw this map, which I thought was interesting. So here is Overlook Park on the map. This is Lake Georgetown, so this is what I'm hiking around here. Started at Cedar Break and come around, but this map is showing the trail system that actually connects back in through that Booties Road park, and then the trail follows all the way back into the town of Georgetown itself. You can see these limbs on the ground. They've snapped off of this tree here, but most trees out here have at least some sort of limb snapped off of them from all the weight of the ice. Yeah, lots of wildflowers and cactus and just really pretty flora going on so far. I thought it might be a little early in the year for wildflowers, but they have started to come out, and I can imagine here in a couple weeks this trail will be absolutely beautiful. So I was just thinking about that old refrigerator I just got a shot of, and I was kind of thinking, man, it's funny that like we get so mad whenever we see trash on trail, like just random trash people throw down. But for some reason, old trash is really cool, right? Like anything rusty, you find an old rusty can or old oil can or just anything from way back. I don't know, it seems like most people, we tend to think that's really neat. It's kind of the same thing with like graffiti, right? You get really mad when you see people graffitiing on anything natural or the rocks or cliffs or whatever. But if you see like old graffiti, I guess you would call it, from say whether it's on like a Appalachian Trail shelter, somebody carved their name from like back in the 60s, or even I've seen ones where it's like old cowboys, you know, put their names and years, and it'll be like 1887 or something on a cliff face. Like that's really cool, and it's just funny to me that we think old versions of trash or graffiti are really cool, but if we find it now, like it just makes us mad, right? It's the old walls of something. Really not sure what it is. Some sort of small building. That's Cedar Breaks Park. That's where I started at, over on the other side of the lake, and then went across the dam way out there behind those trees, and I've made it back around here. This lake is really pretty, and really liking that you can see where you've come from and where you're going. I believe that's Jim Hogg Park. The next Corps of Engineers park I'm going to come to, straight up there in the shot. It is real funny to be walking along, and not that you ever really feel like you're way out there or anything, because you're constantly hearing the sounds of the town out here on this trail, at least so far. But it's funny to be walking along and be in solid trees and kind of think maybe you're, you know, quarter mile, half mile from something, and then pop up and there's someone's backyard right next to you. Pretty big limb snap back there. I'm probably almost 4 miles in. I've only seen one big limb across the trail so far. Looks like some volunteers or somebody's come out here and done some good work to clean up some of these smaller limbs. almost to Hogg Park. It's right across this next ravine. I can hear lots of chainsawing going on over there. So the trail just came out of the woods. That is the entrance to Hogg Park. You can tell they're doing some work all around. You can hear all through the park they're doing work. I see a water spigot on the back of the headquarters over there. And then if you needed bathrooms or water, or if you were going to camp here, it would be farther down that direction. For now, the trail goes straight through right over here by the entrance. I'm sure Hogg Park is a fine place most any time of the year, but I am glad to pass through there and start getting away from some of the noise. I've been walking to it this whole time. Super loud. Mile marker 21. I've done 5+ miles, 5.2 or 5.5, something like that so far. All right, I found my lunch spot. I'm gonna put my sit pad right here. That's the trail right up there across the rock. And here's the view. Nothing spectacular, but pretty nice in a shaded spot. And I found 2 tent stakes. I have 3.2 miles to go to get to Russell Park. There's actually been quite a few trees down across the trail. I know these aren't directly across the trail, but there's been quite a few down in this section between Hogg and Russell Park. Not anything too bad, but it's definitely a bad section compared to what I've hiked so far. And there is the mile marker for mile 19. I'll just pass through this little rock wall of some sort. And this is a really pretty area between mile markers 18 and 19. A pretty good place to camp down there. I think this part of the trail between miles 18 and 19 has got to be my favorite so far, and I don't know if that's because it's a really pretty area or because for the first time since I've been hiking I can't hear any sounds from like excavators and things like that. So I just came up the hill, and looking back down on that little hollow I just went through, and I can see the creek running down through there right there. And that house up there, they got a nice view. At the mile marker 18, quite a bit of construction going just right up the hill. I can see it through the trees, building some big stuff right next to the trail. And look at all those vultures. That is nuts. I've seen 10 or 15 at a time, but never that many. I'm at mile marker 17, just saw my first deer of the trip. You could see it take off back there in the back. So I just came out on the road. That's mile marker 17 right back there. And I can see the gate for the park right up that way. And still got a little bit of trail to go till I get to the actual entrance station for Russell Park. All right, so here we are coming out on the road at Russell Park, and there is the actual entrance station. you can see the gate. There's a gate way back in the back, and that is where I had to turn around, because this is where I was going to start my hike, and then I had to turn around there because they had the gates shut. You can see the lake way down there at the end. They got a boat ramp. They got camping and day use areas here, so if you need a bathroom or anything like that, be down that direction. And my campsite is only maybe a mile or a mile and a half from here. And so I just saw about 7 doe jump up and run across, so I think quite a few deer right here in this section. And then I saw a group of about 20 hikers just pass me, and I haven't seen anybody for the last several miles, probably 5 miles or so. Well, they didn't have a sign like that over at Cedar Break, so I just paid my entrance fee and hopefully the car doesn't get towed. This is the parking area over at Russell Park. Kind of an odd mileage sign. And so it's only around 2:30 right now, and I only have a mile and a quarter to get to my campsite, but there's no other campsites, at least established primitive campsites on the lake for a long way after that. Finally popped out of the woods and came down a ways. This is the first time I've been lower down close to the lake in several miles. So at this point, if you needed to get water out of the lake, you definitely have access to it. It's definitely way more open than most of the trail I've been hiking so far, and I knew this tail section from the tail of the dragon was a little more exposed, and I'm glad that it's overcast today. And tons of helicopters flying over this whole trail so far. Well, that is the main trail over there, and I just made the turnoff to Walnut Springs, and this is the Walnut Springs primitive camping area. Big wide open area. You can see a table farther down the hill there, and then several good sites up here. It's a really quiet and pretty area. So I just walked down the hill from my camp. My camp's right there where those trees are in the middle. It's just a short walk down to the lake, and I filtered some water and got water for dinner and breakfast and clean up a little bit around camp. Have about a gallon capacity of water right now. It's pretty nice down here by the lake. Hear tons of bass out there jumping. And I'm not familiar with the lake, but you can obviously tell it's down quite a bit. Well, guys, pretty good day one. 11 miles in here to camp. And enjoyed dinner tonight. Really enjoyed the Little Debbie's brownies, and listened to some podcasts while I've been hanging out, and watched a couple TV shows while lounging around the tent. Pretty warm one tonight here in the 60s, so got everything opened up, trying to get as much airflow as I can, and just gonna enjoy the evening here in my tent. Anyway, appreciate you guys following along, and I will see you in the morning. It's almost 7:30 and the sun just now made it up over the hill back behind camp. Looks pretty cool, bouncing off of all the tree stumps out there in the water. Well guys, it is straight up 8 o'clock. I've had 2 cups of coffee, 2 different breakfasts this morning, and just really enjoyed my time taking it easy this morning. I'm packed up and ready to go, and I am continuing counterclockwise on the Goodwater Loop over toward the Tejas campground. I'm gonna get water there and then continue on. As you can see from my shadow, it's definitely not overcast anymore. The lake has turned into a small stream out there in the middle of the valley, and once we cross over at the Tejas campsite, we'll be walking back on the other side, up some of those hills, I believe, and down next to the river. Mile marker 13, a little over halfway done. Some cool bat houses, look brand new. The river's not much right there. It's definitely the narrowest spot I've seen. So if you wanted to, you could cut off a couple miles from the Goodwater Loop by crossing this low water bridge right here. And you can see this on Google satellite imagery, so give you kind of an idea where exactly it's at. Somewhere between mile marker 12 and 13. And the trail headed back the other direction is just on the other side of the bridge, so I'll definitely be stopping back by here on my way back the other direction. Looks like I'm finally breaking off of this double track, headed over to single track. It's the first patch of bluebonnets I've seen since early on in the trail. Those of you not from Texas or haven't heard a Texan talking or bragging about it, the bluebonnet is the Texas state flower. I can see a camper from the Tejas campsite over through the woods, so I'm almost to my crossing. See the bridge for the crossing up there? There's also a trail. This is the direction I came from, so you can take a higher route to get over there. They both end up right there at that bridge. Comes the first helicopter of the day. Mile marker 11 is right at the bridge, right at your river crossing. This is looking upstream, and this is looking downstream back toward Lake Georgetown. And this is the Tejas campground. I believe these are primitive sites. You can see some of the tent pads back there in the back. And assuming that is the park host right there in the middle. Small bathrooms. There are more tent sites back here, back in the trees. More parking there. Be able to access your campsites or hiking trail. And then right here next to the park host is potable water. Be able to fill up your water. So that's where I got my water, right up there off the end of this parking area. You get access back to the trail, and we'll continue on. Just looking at the GPS, looks like we're going to be on this road or path here for pretty good ways, following along the river. Only 10 miles to go. I'm breaking down into single digits now. So I've only been hiking for 2 hours now. It's right at 10 a.m. and done about 5.5 miles, which is half of what I was planning on today. The hiking's just been really easy because it's been along the river, so been pretty flat most of the way. Big wide trail, and hoping the trail gets a little harder, because if I don't watch out, I'm going to be done with what I was supposed to do today by lunchtime. Alright, so I just made it to a junction in the trail. If you go left, you end up back at the Tejas Park, and head this way. You continue on the Goodwater Loop. I'm actually going to take this trail back just a little ways to be able to get to that low water bridge that I showed you earlier. It's just a little ways up the trail here, and go out and kind of explore that area real quick. So there is the low water crossing. And that last video I shot from the trail junction is just right there, so really not out of the way. Finally about to start some uphill. This is the first hill I've come to in miles and miles. Definitely the first big hill I've come to today, and maybe the biggest that I've gone up on this trail. And some really easy walking up until now. Not that this is going to be super long going up, but at least it's a good change of pace. Here's the river from the other side. I can see the trail I was on this morning just on the other side of the river. Headed back down this hill, and looks like I'm going to go back up, so this is a good section. Definitely a good change of pace from the flat been walking on all morning. Yesterday I passed a couple of mountain bikers going up the hill, and they looked like they had pretty nice bikes, and their legs were churning. Their bikes are just barely going, and made me think about Tony Hyde, formerly known as Blue Collar Backcountry. Tony, this would be a good one for you, man. get out here on that fat bike and tear these trails up, and it'd be nice to see you do a bike packing trip out here, maybe one night or something like that. Heck, knowing Tony, he'd probably ride down here from his house, do the trail and ride back, or keep on going across the state. Enjoy seeing his bike packing videos. I'm not into biking or anything, but he's always entertaining. Now that I'm at the top of this hill, you can see where the river starts to turn into the lake up there. Just opened up. Starting to make my way down this hill. And on this next hill over here, coming into the frame here on the right, there's a burn section at the top of that hill. Not sure what that's about. If you know, leave it in the comments down below. I like learning stuff like that. You can see those communication towers back there in the back, cell towers. That's what I could see flashing from my campsite last night. Mile marker number 8. I got about a mile and a half to go to get to the Sawyer campsites. And I think that's where I'm going to stop and check those campsites out, eat lunch, and then continue on over to Cedar Hollow. So I'm starting to enter that burn section, and one thing about burn sections is in the spring, man, you always get the best wildflowers growing up through there. You can tell it did end up being overcast today. The sky was doing some weird stuff this morning. It was really overcast, and then it completely opened up, and it's been pretty overcast most of the day. Haven't really needed my sun hoodie and haven't even put my sunglasses on. I've been on a pretty steady uphill for a while now. This is the longest I've been gaining any sort of elevation. And having done the north side of the trail so far, I will definitely say the south side must be where all of the elevation of this trail comes from. So I don't really remember doing too much up and down yesterday, at least none of any significance. Really neat how this stone erodes away just from the natural rainfall. This one's got holes through it. See right there, you can stick your finger all the way through there. And that's really neat. Makes the rocks really sharp though. Mile marker number 7. Almost to the Sawyer camp. Made it to the turnoff for the Sawyer camp. Let's walk up this way and check them out. Well, that is by far the most interesting plaque that I've read so far. Really cool they have these plaques up here. That's just awesome to have the history of the area as you're walking around the lake. So these are the first couple campsites coming into the Sawyer area. This side's definitely much different than the other side of the lake where I stayed yesterday over at Walnut Springs. This side is just down from those last two. Not very many flat spots around here. And you can see right back in the back, center of the shot, just down from where you can see that house. That is the Walnut Springs campsites. That's where I stayed last night, which is funny because I felt like I was didn't have a neighborhood right behind me. Couldn't really hear a ton of noise, but looking at it from this side, there's a $1 million house right right back behind where I was staying last night. Looks like the Sawyer campsites have a couple outdoor toilets. They really don't look super disgusting though. I can't imagine those get used a ton. Another area. So the gentleman I stayed with last night told me that he doesn't ever stay at this campground, that the sites are not flat and the water's hard to access. He's definitely right about sites not being flat. So quite a bit of slope to this area. and the water is quite a bit farther down there compared to Walnut Springs. So I'm just down the hill from where the last shot was, and you can see a faint little trail, and it kind of winds in through here and then ends up right out there at the lake. So definitely a decent walk. Get out there to the water. So I'm walking back up. It looks like there's at least one fire ring up the hill up here back in the trees. Yep, there definitely is, and there is actually a flat spot there to put a tent. No table back here, but as far as being kind of off by yourself and having a flat spot, that seems like that might be one of the better ones. Well, it's almost noon now that I've walked around and checked this area out. I don't need any water, so I don't have to worry about walking down to the lake. I'm just gonna enjoy some lunch, have some sausage here, crackers. Well, I just got back to the main trail, took about a 20-minute lunch, and now I'm gonna head on toward Cedar Hollow. I just passed a gentleman on trail. I was kind of waiting on him to get around a tree that was down across the trail, and he recognized me from YouTube. First guy I've seen in several miles. Very nice gentleman, and he said he hikes this trail quite a bit, and he's one of the ones that's been cleaning up a lot of the blowdowns around here. So I really appreciate all his efforts. I mean, you can tell there's been a lot of work done, a lot of damage to the trail, but a lot of work done helping to clear it. So thanks again, and it was nice to meet him, and it's always nice to meet new people on trail. Everybody I've met so far, including the big hiking groups and everything, they've all been super nice. If I wouldn't have come across the big hiking groups, which I've passed twice today, 44 people each time, I really have hardly seen anyone on trail. It's been a really quiet and pleasant morning, kind of void of all the construction and industrial noises I was hearing yesterday. So I'm really enjoying my time on trail this morning. Stealth campsite. I would say all along this whole trail, no matter if you are in woods or you're out in the open, there have been tons of places you can stealth camp or just not camp in a actual designated campground. Tons of flat spots. The only thing is some of them might not be right directly next to water. Pretty good sized pond just off the trail. About a half mile to go till I get to camp. So I am at a split in the trail, and I'm really not sure if either one is designated the official trail. But this here to the left makes a loop closer down to the lake, and this way here to the right is going to go, looks like it stays high across the ridge. Both of them are going to come out near Cedar Hollow. I mean, I have access either way because they're going to come back together later on. I'm going to take the route to the left to be closer to the lake. Just made it to the turnoff for the Cedar Hollow campsites. Let's head down here and check them out. You know, looking across there at those trees kind of reminds me of like springtime colors instead of fall colors. You got the dark greens of the juniper cedar trees that stay green year round. You got trees putting on new buds on the bright greens, and then all the live oaks lose their leaves in spring, so they're starting to turn yellow and brown. The first campsite you come to walking into Cedar Hollow. Definitely not very flat. Really open. I guess if you need some views or some sunshine, be a good one. Just not a great place to put tents right there. Head up through this prickly pear forest back to the rest of the campsites. All right, this is the start of the main area. Looks like here at Cedar Hollow. Nice green grass. This area up the hills looks like it's pretty good for hanging out, but just not sure where you put your tent at. It's going to be flat. Definitely a couple places for hammocks up here. So this is that site that was just down the hill a ways. Separated from some of the other ones. You could potentially put your tent there. It's flat-ish. Just not super flat. There's the toilets like they had over at Sawyer. And it looks like there may be some more campsites a little farther down this way. And there is the one campsite that's down the hill a ways. This one's closest to the lake. Still not really flat, but you're down here closer to the lake. Just don't have any shade down here. Walk down this trail and check out the access to the water. Definitely closer than Sawyer. About the same distance as the water access for Walnut Springs. Now that I've gotten down here, I noticed there's a table over there. I'm sure someone just carried it down from farther up the hill, or at least that's what I'm assuming. There is a fire pit and a stack of rocks right over there, so people definitely have stayed down here closer to the water. So right back over there in the center of the shot, that's where that trail comes immediately down, but you walk a few yards over here, you have really good access to the water up here off this limestone shelf. Easily can dip water out right there and shouldn't have a ton of dirt in it like you would farther back over there. Looks like it drops off pretty good ways right here. So here is a look of the lake right here on this point. Really pretty, not a ton of houses right here. Wasn't super impressed with this campground. I mean, far and away, Walnut Springs is the best primitive campsites on this trail. And if I come down to do this again, I'll definitely make it a point to stay there. These sites are okay. This to me is better than Sawyer, but I don't know. I'm gonna have to go find something up here that might be suitable to stay in tonight. I found this fire ring up the hill once again. A good place to hang out. No table up here, but I don't see any real good tent sites. Well, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do yet. It's only like 1:30, so I got tons of time to finish the trail. Only got 4.5 miles out of here. I'd like to stay out here another night. Just not super impressed with this camping area. It's not terrible, but definitely stayed in better. And then when I have the choice of being able to keep hiking, like, you know, that thought's definitely in the back of my mind. Plus, I'm listening to people hammering and yelling at each other up here at these houses I guess they're building or working on anyway. You know, as long as there wasn't anybody else here or not any mass amount of people, this really not a bad spot. But if you came in and a lot of these sites were taken and you got the last couple picks here, you'd be in some pretty bad spots. So I sat here a while just eating a snack and kind of cooling off a little bit, and I did notice there is a good flat spot right there. This is the back of that big campsite. Walking in, that's a good flat spot for a 2-person tent. And then there is a flat-ish, pretty flat spot right there. Put another 2-man tent and maybe a 2-man tent there. That's not a super flat spot, but all around this one bigger campsite you can definitely fit a couple tents. I did notice earlier, it looks like somebody might have been keeping a 1-man tent back there. I don't know, you'd have to have a pretty small tent. This Cedar Hollow does seem like it's set up pretty well for hammocking. at least around these first few campsites. Obviously the ones down by the water don't have any trees, but they don't have any flat spots either. So there are a few good places to be able to put tents up. Kind of misspoke earlier, but definitely, just like I said, far and away, Walnut Springs is the best primitive campsite out here. All right, so I decided not to stay the night here at Cedar Hollow, and instead just going to go ahead and finish the trail. Got 4.5 miles or so to go. I only have about a third of a liter of water, and I could go down and filter water, but I think that'll be enough with it being overcast to make it up to the next place where there'll be water in about 2 miles. So, you know, that's only 45 minutes or so, 50 minutes to get there. And I will probably fill up water there and then finish the last couple miles, be back in my truck. All right, I am back on trail. Mile marker number 4. 4 miles to go. There he goes. Man, I am getting all that cool breeze off the lake. That feels great. The only real bad thing about hiking over here on the south side of the loop is I've walked through so many spider webs. Getting lots of good views of the lake from up here till it's really getting windy down there. I'm assuming that is the picnic area, boat ramp area for Russell Park, straight across on that point we're looking at. There's some of the construction I'm hearing. See how close that is? Pretty wild. That's right next to the trail. So the 2 different guys that I've talked to that were backpacking this trail, or are backpackers, have been coming out here for a while now. One of them, he said for about 5 years, and other one said he's been coming out here, at least to this area. I don't know if this trail was here or not, but it's been coming out here since 1981. And both of them said the trail has really changed quite a bit over the last few years, or not the trail itself really, but the surroundings. Said there's been a lot of construction, a lot of homes being built, moving in right next to these, and these are not like little houses. These are big, and it's crazy. I mean, I could throw a rock and hit that house right over there. So that's pretty wild. I mean, it's kind of sad to see that for the people that have been coming here forever, their trail has changed, but you know, I understand progress and things being built, and everything's expanding from Austin north, and yeah, so anyway, it's just different. Apparently the trail didn't quite used to be like this. Oh wow, there you go. That's how close some of these homes are. First little bridge on trail. Mile marker number 3. Should be coming up on the waterfall here pretty soon. Here is the spring. You can see they're building new houses literally straight up above this, so hopefully it doesn't get damaged. And the irises are really pretty. Water flowing right across the trail. Wow, this Crockett garden area is awesome, and I've heard in years past is even better. And you can tell a lot of the ferns have died. I don't know if that's from drought or what exactly, but it's a really neat area. Here is an easier, probably more official way to make it down to the bottom of Crockett Garden. There's one of the backup alarms I've been hearing for hours now. And I've been noticing something smelling terrible. I think I might have found the culprit. That house definitely doesn't fit in the mold of all the other ones I've seen on this lake. And I have really lucked out with these overcast skies last 2 days. There's some sections, you know, going across the dam, going around over by the Tejas campsites. I was thinking, man, it's gonna be hot out in the sun, and just really lucked out having overcast skies. Kind of reminds me of going across the Dodson on the Outer Mountain Loop Trail at Big Bend. That's supposed to be like one of the hottest, most exposed trails. And the day I did it was super overcast all day, and they even got a little bit of rain right at the end of the day, and so I didn't have that experience at all. Anyway, so this has been really pleasant to hike in. It was really nice back before I made this turn and was getting all the breeze off the lake. That was really nice. All right, so since I got about 1.5 miles to go, I'm going to start some final thoughts on the trail. This trail, now that I've done it all, I can easily say that it can be done in one night, no problem, if you're in any sort of decent shape. The south side is the majority of your ups and downs, and then you can kind of cruise around that western end where the river comes in, so that's easy to make miles over there. So yeah, it can easily be done in one night. I would say if I had somebody else out here with me or was with a group, that I wouldn't have minded staying 2 nights, but I have you know, no real reason to be out here just sitting, because I got to my campsite so early. I literally would have just been chilling by myself for you know, 6 hours until it got dark. Anyway, so 1 night's good. 2 nights if you're wanting to take a leisurely pace. You could even hike this thing as a day hike, I think. Definitely seems doable. I know I mentioned it a couple times already, but out of the 3 primitive backpacking sites, Cedar Hollow, Cedar Hollow, Sawyer, and Walnut Springs. Walnut Springs is by far my favorite. It is open, so you don't like really have segmented off campsites, but as far as like a flat, soft spot to put your tent, easy to get to the water, that is a good spot. If you're hammock camping, one of the other 2 sites, Sawyer or Cedar Hollow, be much better. Walnut Springs really didn't have a ton of good places to hang your hammock. No matter which of the 3 you pick, you're really not going to be very far away from civilization. There's houses really pretty close to all 3 of them. So as far as water, I brought 1 3/4 liters worth of bottles, and that's primarily, you know, that's what I carried whenever I'd fill up, and that worked out really well. I also had the 2-liter Canuck bag that I'd use to filter water, and that was nice for having at camp, so I could haul water back from the lake. There's so much water on this trail because you have the parks that you can fill up potable water. You really don't need much more than that. I'd say 2 liters would get you by, at least for my water consumption. If you drink a lot more water, you know, you may want to be able to carry more water, but you can fill up every few miles, either from the lake, a stream if you have a filter, or the water spigots at the parks. As far as noise and being close to town, you know, I definitely I wouldn't come out here expecting to be way out in nature. I mean, if you look at Google satellite imagery, you're pretty much surrounded by town and development. But there are pockets where it's quiet, and you know, I think I might have caught it on a noisy time of year since they just had that storm. Lots of chainsaws and leaf blowers and things like that. But the construction noise has been fairly constant. Once you get past one set of noise and go around a bend, you start hearing the next bit of construction or whatever they're doing. But it's not horrible. And then, you know, at night, obviously, at least for last night, it stopped. You hear some boat noise on the lake. That's not a big deal, especially down where Walnut Springs is at, since it's in the smaller, narrow end of the lake. Boats aren't going super fast over there. Now, I will say all my experience comes from this trip, and that is during the week. So I would imagine on the weekends it might be quite a bit busier. If I wouldn't have seen the group of the big hiking group that was all together, I would have seen a total of less than 10 other hikers on this entire loop. And I'm going for like hours at a time without seeing anybody. So that is pretty nice. I would imagine on the weekends it's quite a bit busier. So would I recommend this trail, or would I come do it again? Absolutely, yeah. This, as far as the actual trail, has been really nice. Other than dealing with some of the noises and things like that, that's really the only negative I've had. I would definitely come and plan to spend one night out at Walnut Springs. And you know, if I was with my kids, wife and kids, you know, I'd probably end up staying at one of the other established campgrounds and do shorter mile days. But Walnut Springs definitely was one of the highlights of the trip. Well, I just passed two more hikers. They're headed to Crockett Garden Falls, and I know they can hear me talking, so they probably think I'm weird talking to myself or something. But anyway, so my favorite sections of the trail, the one yesterday between mile, I believe it was 18 and 19, down in that little hollow, that was really pretty. I really enjoyed that. That was really nice. And then this morning, surprisingly, walking around the western end, like where the it's more of a river than the lake, I really enjoyed that, especially like on the south side, or I'm sorry, the north side, before I ever crossed over the bridge. I really enjoyed that walk. I think a lot of it had to do with it being quiet, and it was just a nice peaceful morning. But I enjoyed that section as well. I could definitely see how that could be hot during summer, or when it wasn't overcast. But yeah, I really enjoyed that section. Wow, this is just off trail. This is probably the best overlook of the lake I've come to, wide open. Oh, this is really pretty. Good shot of the lake, everything we've walked around. Last mile, almost done. So I came to another junction in the trail, and I'll definitely say, at least for me, you're going to want to use some sort of GPS or some sort of mapping device on your phone, just because there are junctions just like this, no markings of which is which. Both trails look about like a main trail, just that if I look on my map on my phone, that way to the left goes straight to the lake, this way goes back to the parking lot. So there's really no way to know, because there's no sign or anything. You would just have to have you would have to have some sort of detailed map, like from All Trails, or I use Gaia, but something like that you can get on your phone. I think I'm gonna put out a YouTube album of nothing but sounds of the Goodwater Loop. Backup alarms and chainsaws. Anyway, guys, I have made it back to the trailhead. I can see my truck over there. I just want to say appreciate you guys following along. If you have any questions or comments about the Goodwater Loop or this video, be sure to leave them down below. Love talking about hiking, especially here in Texas, and enjoy interacting with you guys. So until next time, thanks for following along, and we'll see you.